Welcome back to the deranged ramblings of a man that should be put into an asylum. It is I, Communal Loser. I think that's my channel name. I haven't looked at my channel in months. Anyway, I'm back, and today I wanted to do something a little different. You know, challenge videos, too easy. I didn't enjoy myself. An in-depth critique of Dishonored system was mid. I deleted that video for obvious reasons. But anyway, what are we doing today? I went, to be completely honest, I just wanted an excuse to play video games. So, yeah, I did a backlog video, and this is the only backlog video you'll ever need. I hit every genre, minus life sim. I don't have a life. Let us begin. Our first game, Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Why? Because it was fun, and that was the first game I started for this video, so it's the first one I'm talking about. Also, we'll be calling it Mech, because I don't want to actually call it Mirror's Edge Catalyst every 5 seconds. Let us begin. Now, this game was really fun. First things first, we're going to talk about the parkour, you know, the kind of the big selling point of the game. You, honestly, at least me playing, I really felt like you were, I don't know how Old Faith is, but however Old Faith is, woman running around the city. It really did feel like, oh, this is realistic. Obviously, there is some AAA jank, like every AAA game, but that's give or take. You know, that's just expected at this point. We don't, the big multi-billion-dollar companies, we can't give them too much expectations. They might shit themselves. Anyway, the parkour definitely does feel really good, at least to me, and traversing the city, at times I do feel like the acceleration is a bit slow. One thing I really did not think I'd enjoy at all is the combat. I know in Mirror's Edge, the combat was a lot less, and I think it was a lot more like you kick a couple guards and that's it. I don't remember Mirror's Edge, to be honest, so I'm the worst person to talk to about this game, but you know what? That's not my problem. That's not my problem, I think. But the combat overall, I felt was really good. And it, honestly, one thing I really like is it makes sense for this universe. Faith being a runner and also just fighting a bunch of men, the way she fights makes a lot of sense. For instance, a lot of her combat is directional movement and position-based movement. Pretty much most, if not every movement in the game has an attack tied with it, which is really cool. Can we say that real quick? Like, you can literally vault off of like a railing and deal with enemies, which is what I did sometimes because sentinels are not fun to play against. Speaking of sentinels, enemies. I like and dislike them because each enemy definitely feels different. I really like how each enemy feels distinct and unique, and in some ways, late game, each of the higher different types are equal, which is fun because it gives you diversity late game, but also they're either vanguards or sentinels. I forget. I really can't remember, and it's hurting my little rat brain, so we're not going to worry about it. But the blue ones with the ninja moves, we don't like them. Overall, it felt really good. My only real gripe was I felt that there was not a good counterplay to late game. I felt like you attack, they attack, you attack, they attack, and it felt like you couldn't really chain combos really well because they'd stagger, get invincibility frames, and then they'd get their attack off. Like the shock guys kind of just went pooh, and then you got stunned. And the Vanguard guys would just, at one point, I think I got like stun locked, got downed 3 health states, and he just killed me. Not fun. But aside from the Vanguard Sentinels, I like the enemies. They are very balanced in my opinion. Anyway, side content. It's a mixed bag, to be honest. This is a AAA game, so there is a lot and a lot of collectibles. Even in my save that I used to play this game, I have not collected all of them. So we got routes, which are just kind of races. I think that's more of a multiplayer thing, be comparing your scores with friends, but every time I open up Mech, it tells me that that thing is disabled, but don't worry, I have no friends, so it works out. Then we have deliveries, which I like and hate at the same time, because it's essentially the run things from before, and it's an in-universe thing. Faith is a runner. It makes sense that she needs to run and do things. I'll explain the whole point of that stuff later. Just pretend you understand now. And if you play the game, good for you, bud. But it makes sense that Faith is a runner. She needs to deliver stuff. So I like it, but also it just feels like a rehash of the race thing you could do with your friends, but more in-universe. I'm doing quotation signs saying that. There are 2 types. There's one that's just purely time-based, and then there's another one where it's based off of being how much you're seen. And in my experience, that doesn't really change much for the game. Stealth in Mirror's Edge is non-existent, so it kind of doesn't work when you're trying to be covert. To fail the mission, I don't think I failed a don't be seen mission by being seen. I think only by the timer, which which is impressive. And then we get other stuff. For instance, you have security towers, and again, standard open world AAA game stuff, but I actually like it a lot because it's like a two-phased process. First things first, you go to the tower, you beat up the guards, and then you like destroy the tower, which in itself is a lot cooler than just running around because you're actually in combat and it feels good. And then once you destroy the tower, you're actually pursued. It's a really cool, one thing I really like about Mirror's Edge is a lot of the gameplay has a reaction to it. For instance, when you destroy the tower, suddenly you're being chased by Krugersek, and Krugersek has these like helicopters that follow you, and you have like in like the map you see like these like radiuses of like helicopters following you around, and you literally have to get out of sight or you'll keep on getting attacked, which is really cool. I really like it, and how you have to like, this is a direct lash out against the big overwhelming power, and you have to escape because if not you'll get your shit kicked in. So I really like it. That's a really good one. Next up we have is grid nodes. It's what I like about grid nodes is that it doesn't try to be something different than the game. What I'm trying to say is it leans into what the game is good at, which is parkour. It's the whole purpose of this game, and let me tell you, it does it really well. The whole purpose of the side content is that it lets you just get to this thing that allows you to fast travel to safe houses in that area, but also it just lets you just parkour around a room, and it's usually not too long and pretty enjoyable. So just to give a quick explanation of the world of mech, that this is like a surveillance state, very, very monitored corporate, like soulless vibes. Faith will just traverse the roofs and there's cameras, but why aren't the cameras noticing you and doing something about it? Like, you are a criminal, you are wanted. And in the beginning of the game I was like, why do I feel like I can just roam the buildings for free without any lashback from Krugersek, like I am a wanted criminal? And then guess what, later game it did that, and I was actually really happy. I was like, hold up, they're kind of cooking. So there's a character named Plastic that is trying to get into the grid node. I don't know what these are. I just do it, and there's these like little orb things you gotta like collect in this like time limit. It's not really that good. It's just do this thing under a timer. That's one thing I don't like about the side content, is that there's a lot of timer based things, and what I like the most, but also that just kind of shows with me as a person, because I like the content that is less timed and more so just doing the content, and more, and not more skill based, but more my vibes, I guess. You can randomly find these Krugersek guards just beating up random people, and you can beat up the guards and get XP from it, which counts towards something, I think. But yeah, I think that's literally all the side content. Oh, you can hack billboards. Sorry, I'm doing this off on the dome, so if I miss something, editor meet will write something. Environment. Out of all the games that I played for this video, I feel like one thing I've noticed is all of them are really good looking, give or take. The next game is going to really make you question what I just said, but trust, for its time it was good looking. But I really do like good looking games, and Mech really does that really well. I really like the aesthetic of this like sterile world with very neon vibes, and like having white as a strong base with accents to really push and pop colors. I'm not an art major. I'm just a hard worker working my 9 to 5s. Anyway, that to say, I really like the environment, and I feel like compared to Mirror's Edge, it really does better. I just feel like Mech took Mirror's Edge's original formula and made it look better. And even for a game that I think came out in 2016, it looks really good. I feel like they hit a really good balance between realistic and their style. That's all I have for the environments. It looks good. I like designs of characters. The cutscenes look really good. I also just am a big fan of when people use in-game cutscenes because it helps with immersion, and they do that. It's time for the story. For Mech, my biggest gripe with it is the story. I'm gonna say that now, get it out there now, so that when you hear me talk about it, you'll be like, okay, I saw this coming. The gameplay, side content, environment, I think are amazing. I think it fits really well. The story kind of falls flat. It feels very safe. I'm just gonna run you through the story real quick, and then I'll talk a bit more about things. So let's start with, Faith gets out of prison, and then this dude named Icarus comes in. He says, hey, Shadi, come here. She goes with him. He gets her off the grid. They both are runners and work for this guy named Noah, who's like the leader of the runners. And then you follow her escaping Krugersek, getting off the grid officially, TM, heading to the runner's base. And let me just say, the runner's base is really nice. And I think one of my bigger gripes with the game is there's a there's a dissonance words between the game, the world, and the story. The fact that the runner's base is like in the center of the map, give or take, I think. Really big, couple entrances, and there's cameras nearby. And what gets my nerves is the runners are just doing things illegally, and KrugerSec hasn't done anything about it, which makes no sense to me, but that's something I'll get to later. TLDR, Faith goes up, sees Noah. She does some random stuff, get back into the mojo, that's the word I was thinking of. And then eventually Noah gets this job to not raid, but like break into this KrugerSec place and get some information. You see John Kruger come into this building, you're also in, you follow him, you steal this like tablet thing, I forget. Question mark emoji, and you bring it with you. You give it to Noah. He was actually just considering giving it back as like a, hey, my bad, bro, which I'll get into later. You're also in debt to this dude named Dogan for some reason. Dogan has you do a job, and then there's this other group, Black November. I think that's the group name. Black November, where they actually are like a terrorist group. So at this point, you have 3 big players in the game. They just nuked something. The leader of Black November arguing with Noah. Faith and Icarus go on a job for something I straight up forget. I don't remember. I forgot. They were kept away from the runner base. They come back. It's under attack. And they have to go to Black November's hideout to stay safe, because the runner base is straight up just is demolished. Shenanigans follow. I'm gonna just skip through a bunch. So there's some flashback scenes to like Faith when she was a child. They don't matter. She has a sister that died. So Bian's leader is like, we're gonna kidnap KrugerSec's daughter, and we do that so that we can hold ransom. And so we hold her hostage, and then we eventually break into this like KrugerSec security area, and that we find out that she's actually Faith's sister. They talk. Her sister is like full on the KrugerSec side. She escapes somehow. I forgot. And this all comes to a head with this thing called the catalyst. No. The reflection. It comes to the reflection. And the reflection pretty much is like, hey man, we're gonna turn this surveillance state into a surveillance home by making everyone be surveillanced. There's these implants that you get that pretty much let you be completely watched by KrugerSec. Oh no, control. And obviously we don't like control in this household, so we plan to go against it by breaking into this thing called the Shard. It's the big last climb of the game. You go in, you beat up John Kruger, you stop it, and then the game ends. I left out a lot of content and information because I'm lazy and that doesn't suit my points, so we're not going to worry about that. Now it's time to actually talk about my issues with the story. My issue with it is the story is safe. It felt very, we're the runners, we're the good guys, we don't like control, which I'm fine with, but my issue is this story could have been so much better. With it being safe, it sucked. Let me explain. So, the big 3 players are Runners, Black November, and KrugerSec. Let me explain kind of where they are on a spectrum. KrugerSec is on one side of the spectrum. They are in control, they like the environment, and they are trying to maintain it. Black November is on the complete other side of the spectrum. They hate the environment, and they're doing everything they can to change it. And then the Runners are kind of in the middle, at least in my opinion, with they don't like the environment, but they haven't really done much to change it. More so working on adapting and being able to live their life in it while still not following the rules. TM. Okay, got that out the way. So what is this? What am I trying to get at with this? One thing I don't mind is different ideals, and I like how each group has its own distinct way of living and wanting to see the world in the future, with KrugerSec pushing for more control and more surveillance. And at the end of the story of Mech, John Kruger literally was like, hey man, this reflection can help find diseases, help, find missing persons. He didn't say that, and there is a lot of things you can do with that to help the general populace. And Faith was like, nuh-uh, and just kind of ignored it. And that got on my nerves a lot, because I'm like, that's a fair point. That would have helped. But my issue lands with the fact that you had groups and you could have done something with it. Like throughout the entire game, everyone's trying to make you pick a side and do something. And at the end of the game, I think the biggest punch to the face, Faith just decides to stay a runner. Like Icarus is like, Faith, what are you gonna do? And Faith went, I'm gonna run. Bro, what? Throughout this entire game, so many people died. Noah died, John Kruger died. Yeah, they died. I just didn't feel like mentioning it until now. By the way, actually, let me tell you after the story ends what happens. Isabel decides to take leadership of KrugerSec, and nothing changes. I mean, the reflection, apparently with Plastic's magical tech ability, is completely unusable now. Yeah, the bad guy is gone, but it's like Isabel fully believes in KrugerSec and is taking over to continue KrugerSec. And now we're just gonna continue? Nothing changes in Mirror's Edge Catalyst. It felt like Mech needed a sequel. The way the story ended really benefited with a sequel. It would have given a conclusion. So yeah, I really don't know. I really don't know. And I'm gonna give you a quick TLDR of the story for Mirror's Edge could have been. The first half of the game, you could leave happy. I don't mind it at all. When Kruger's Sec attacks, why not have John Kruger and Noah both die? If you think about it, Isabel and Faith are kind of running parallel in different groups. Have both them die. Have the runners have to go to Black November and have Isabel take over Faith helping out Black November with missions and stuff. And then suddenly Faith gets kidnapped. What happens then is Faith gets introduced to Isabel Kruger, who knows because she's in Kruger Sec, she has information, and she's like, hey man, you're my sister. I love you. Join me. And then suddenly you have kind of like a tug, other side of Black November, Kruger Sec, or reunite the runners, and then pretty much have it be like Fallout New Vegas-esque vibes where you have to pick one side or the other, or maybe have a fourth or third option where you're able to pick another way. Maybe the runners can come out the rubble of their fallen base and lost a leader and do something that would change the world. I think my issue is nothing changes at the end of the game, and I think a really cool idea would be to make it to where Faith sides with the faction and helps them out. I just think Mirror's Edge Catalyst needed something, some type of additional story. Like, the story felt like one of those like setup comics that you'd read while waiting for the game to come out. But I mean, aside from that, the game's good. I really do enjoy the game. I feel that if you just play this game and you kind of just smile and nod your way through the story, it's a very simple, oh, we beat the bad guys story. That's my rant on the story. If it was delusional or didn't make any sense, that's on you, skill issue. I give this game, I'm gonna have to rank this game a solid B+ to A tier. I not S tier. I feel like it was held back by its story too much to really put it up there. But the gameplay, the parkour, the side content, the environments is able to get the game up to at least a B+, if not A tier. Anyway, my next game, Portal. I'm not the biggest fan of puzzle games, not because I'm secretly hateful of the genre and thinking it's a smear across gaming. It's more so just I'm stupid. Portal, what is in Portal? Now, this game is, in my opinion, iconic, well known. If you've heard of Valve, you've heard of Portal. This is going to be a quicker segment because it's Portal. Let's get going. So first off, what is the gameplay? Well, the gameplay for Portal is puzzles, a lot of them. What I like about them is that they are level specific. So each level has its specific puzzle. And one thing I think is kind of cool is how each of them have like the little icons where it's like, this is what you're going to be doing, which is like a hint. And I feel that the puzzles weren't incredibly hard. You had ones where you had to kind of use the portal gun to get this orb thingy to the end part and like bounce it off the walls. There's a lot of movement-based puzzles too, and it's not like a huge amount. The way I like to think about puzzles in Portal is you're at point A and you need to get to point B. Kind of like a situation where you just take your environment in and figure out what to do with it. So it's a really good time. I very much enjoy the puzzles, and also you have more introductions later on. Like you have turrets that are more natural roadblocks where you have to actually do something, or you get shot. There's a lot of cool puzzle designs that I really enjoy playing through. And you had the general campaign that you had to go through, which was, I'll get into the story a little later, but you had the puzzle levels, the wall segments where you're in the walls, and all that. And then there was challenge levels, which I believe all 6 were just redone levels, because yeah, I would too. The challenge levels are significantly harder in my opinion. Base Portal isn't the hardest game in my opinion. Overall, they're challenging but fair. You're never gonna sit there and be like, why is this level impossible? To be fair though, I had to look up the answers for I think the last one, so I'm kind of a bad example. The environments. This game looks really good in my opinion, at least for its time. And what I like so much about it is I can't tell if it's stylistic or just it's what they could do at the time. And because I'm not an artist, I can't tell, and I never will. So yeah, Portal looks, in my opinion, really good, and frankly holds up to 2024, 2025 standards. And also, I like the little hidden areas of the environments, visual storytelling about how Gladius is out to get us. And yeah, I always enjoy me some. But yeah, I'm not going to go into the environment as much as I will or have gone. The story. So in my notes, all I put was, we beat up a woman robot. That's all I got. So, thanks past me. Now I gotta do some legwork. what is the story of Portal? You wake up in a chamber, you do some tests, you kill the woman robot. It's pretty simple, you know, you do a bunch of tests, and then the woman robot is like, hey man, we got you some cake. And then it's fire. Oh no. And then you know, portal gun out of there. And then one thing I really thought was kind of funny was she was like, come on man, you gotta come back. You gotta get your cake. And like we don't know it's fire. But and then we end up in her walls. And it was kind of cool where it's like you see the sterile test chambers combined with the really gross, grimy back walls. Anyway, you end up finding her test chamber and you kill her. And that's the game. Portal isn't a really complex game. It's short. It's a tight, short story, which I really enjoy. I feel like in today's day, with how much games have to be big and season passes and open world and all this stuff, going back to a game like Portal where it's level-based linear puzzle design, it's really cool. I won't lie, it's a really cool design, to be frank. It was really enjoyable coming back to a game that I think I played like an hour in perchance. Yeah, the game's good. And just a fun fact for y'all, I played through Portal 2 and then played Portal 1, and I just did not enjoy Portal 1. And where would I rank it? On my playability scale. My playability scale, I'd recommend always buying this on a sale, but that's just because I'm a stingy person and Valve puts their games for dirt cheap on sales. So I would honestly just wait for a sale. But if you are like craving a puzzle game, get Portal 1 and Portal 2. This is a Portal 2 shill also. I think they can come in like a bundle deal, so get that. These games are good. I'm not a puzzle fan and I love them, so play them. And yeah, next up I'm making another video talking about Dishonored. I hate my life. If you are a dedicated fan of this amazing channel, you will notice that I made a video on Dishonored before this. And this video is now talking about its sequel. But you could also say that this video in itself is a spiritual successor to that Dishonored video. Its gameplay has a lot of moments, so we're gonna split it up. Starting with swordplay. Swordplay is very simple, and that's what makes it good. You slash and parry. That's all you have. Because it's so simple, it's fun. You don't have to worry about ability 10's cooldown while you have to worry about the enemies like fireball. Its simplicity is what builds nuance to other parts of the game. But also, on its own, it's quite fun and fair. So, abilities. The funny part about that is I didn't use much. For Corvo, I straight up rejected it. And for Emily, I used her leap and I think the shadow walk to like get through some rooms. I'm gonna be so real with you. I don't have much to say on this. The best way I can explain it is, you ever get in an RPG game and you get a bunch of potions, but you don't want to use them and you're kind of like hoarding them? That's kind of me, where I'm like, I see abilities as like the assist to you playing versus a part of you playing. So it's like, I don't want to use them unless I have to. That's just me being weird. I think the abilities of Dishonored have always been cool. That's really about it. I have this like headcanon of the Dishonored players where I feel like low chaos Ghost is the most done run, and I have no factual evidence to back this up. It just feels like it is. And it's also because I think in like a White Light video, yes, I watch YouTube, he mentioned how like in Dishonored it feels like you're pushed to go to non-lethal route, which makes sense because good ending. A lot of the time you need to stealth to get the good ending. It does make sense that it would be the most done. Dishonored contains a good amount of side content. You got like finding the bone charms, the runes, random side missions, black markets. I'm missing something. Paintings for collectibles. There is a lot of things to do in the game, but honestly, I think one of the biggest strengths of Dishonored is you don't have to do it, and you can still get a good experience. I won't lie, I kind of got burnt out of finding every rune and bone charm in my initial playthrough as Emily, to the point where I kind of was like, I just want to beat the game non-lethal. This is cool that you can do it, it's just not my thing. But there was this one mission for the museum level where you got to break into the, well, you already broke into the museum, but break into like a part of the museum where you get like some crossbow parts and just you get paid good money from the black market person. Loved that level. That was a cool side mission, and I know there's some more of them. And there's also side content that helps progress your just main story, disabling the rails to where you can walk on them. I'm blanking, but there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do on the side. It's just very much, do you it depends on just how much you're exploring the maps, but I think they're really cool. Corvo is just essentially John Wick. And instead of his dog dying, it was his wife. And like, if you think about it, it's him going on this huge revenge spree and then being like, I'm done. I don't know the John Wick movies that well. I just know his dog dies in like the first movie. But yeah, it's essentially John Wick. I played through High Chaos with Corvo. I wanted to get the High Chaos experience because I did Low Chaos with Emily. And I felt like I played through the game a lot faster. And that can be attributed to, one, I didn't have to worry about not killing people. So the crossbow had more uses. I could use a gun. I could just kill the targets instead of trying to find the workaround. I didn't have to quick save and quick load as much. It was my second playthrough and I had experience with the maps. I had a lot easier time moving around without being detected or whatnot. So at least to me, the game went by a lot faster. Like I did mention, I think, that this took like half as much time. And I won't lie, from a story aspect, I liked it a lot more because it felt like Corvo's coming home and he's like familiar, but not, because it's been like 20-ish years, I think, since he last was there. High Chaos at times would make me feel like this is really chaotic, guys. What am I doing? And it was fun. I actually really enjoyed High Chaos. At least to me, it didn't feel like Low Chaos to High Chaos was a huge difference. It just felt like the enemies were getting stronger. I think one of the cooler things about this was I said I wasn't going to do a ghost run for Corvo High Chaos, and so I didn't. But at times I had to stealth because the enemies were just strong. And also I was broke. A good chunk of the first half of the game I played through for this, I was like flat broke. I had no resources whatsoever. I was scrounging and it was really weird compared to my other one, which I'll get into. I was rolling in money. Like I always had change to spare. My resources were filled, but also to be fair, I was using like everything because I was allowed to at that point versus with Low Chaos where you use 2 or 3 compared to like the 7. So a little different, I won't lie. But yeah, I really enjoyed High Chaos. I definitely want to go back to Dishonored 1 and play through a High Chaos run, but I think I'm going to do a ghost run of it. Emily, as I said, Low Chaos run, and I took a lot more time. And it wasn't just because I was having to stealth around people and quick saving, quick loading. It also was I was exploring. I let myself kind of breathe out through the levels. And first off, just take in the ambiance, which we'll get to soon. Trust me, I wanted to just be able to roam and have fun. And so I had a lot of fun with Emily. I took a lot more time. I think it took 12-ish hours versus Corvo's like 6. Give or take. I haven't looked at my computer in a hot second about it. Compared to Corvo's return to home being cool to me, I also liked Emily, her side of it being I'm coming to my father's home and I'm engaging with it as a person who is new to here. It's kind of cool seeing like a reality check for her. She was raised in No Mall Tower, essentially never hanging out with the peasants. And so it was cool. I won't lie. And I feel like it, from a world building, finding out about the world, it would make more sense for Emily to be the canon person to go through it. But also, we love some Corvo. And I'm really happy they gave you the choice. Quick side note, because I used abilities for Emily, I will say this now, I hate her leap power so much. Let me just put this out there now. I know they did 2 kits for Emily and Corvo, so it didn't feel like you're just repeating the playthrough with a different voice. They should have just kept the blink. The leap for Dishonored, it felt like it didn't fit. On its own, it's cool, but in the concept of Dishonored, I just feel like it did not fit that well. And I just hated the momentum. I wish I just had they should have just gave her blink. That's all I have to say about that. Dishonored 2's environment. Let's be honest here, it's a Dishonored game. It looks good. I know there was a big shift from Dishonored to Dishonored 2 on the art style. To be honest, I like it. It meshed the realism of just our world to Dishonored's art style. And I feel like if you really liked Dishonored 1's art style and not as much realism, you're not going to like it as much. But to me, I liked it a lot. It took the best of Dishonored 1 and put it into Dishonored 2 perfectly with updated and better graphics. I'm not an art kid, so take what I said with a grain of salt, but my little monkey brain likes it. I really like how each area feels like its own unique thing. The levels aren't repetitive. The edge of the world, I believe, was the first level. It felt like a really hot, sunny day where you're running around town, getting familiar with your new world. the hospital where you go find Dr. Hypatia. It was very downcast. It kind of reminded me of horror films, kind of, where it's like a downcast in a derelict asylum. Really just added to the ambiance. And I believe when you were leaving, the sun was starting to rise. It was cool. And also breaking into the museum. I don't know the level name. It feels like you're an art thief breaking into a museum for your greatest steal. Environments work really well. And I feel like you gotta give Dishonored 2's team some credit for that. Dishonored 2's level design and immersive simness. Ooh. Immersive sim is a word that's been used in the past couple years a lot more. Dishonored, I feel, really works the immersive simness through its level design. You have so many options to pick from, and I can't even list them all. It's insane, to be honest, how much freedom you have. And at times, it does feel like there is the right way to do something, but the best way I can put it is Portal. You have a point A and a point B, and you just gotta get there. It doesn't really matter how you get there, you just get there. And with Portal, you have a lot more limited choices to make on how to get there because it's more puzzle focused versus Dishonored, where it's more of like a choose your own adventure type game. Do you want to go to the black market? Go to page 7, you know? It's really cool. The levels really help push the idea that you're playing as this character, not you're playing the character. If that makes any sense, you are playing out your own story through the medium of a character. I won't lie to you, Dishonored's story is not that good. Like, I've been spending this entire section glazing the fuck out of this game, and I have to be the bearer of bad news that the story is not that strong. Also, it's good, because if you think about Dishonored, you don't think about the thought-provoking story of royalty and whatever else they talk about. It's about how do you want to stab a person? How do you want to take this target out? It's a lot more gameplay focused. The story of Dishonored being so simple and not that strong helps really push the gameplay up, because it's not like the story is bad. The Delilah side of things is a little weird, NGL, but really aside from that, it's not a particularly bad story. It's making a Dishonored sequel is hard because the whole point of Dishonored is revenge, and the way they did Dishonored 2 worked really well, where it made sense why we want to take back the throne, because this woman who is allegedly Emily's mother is her sister. It's weird, and I like it. It's just also not the strongest, and it just sets up like a rogues gallery villains list where Corvo/Emily can take them out. That's pretty simple. The story ending with not a concrete answer on if Delilah is truly the sister or not, I think is kind of cool. For all we know, she could have just been lying. But the story isn't the best, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend it is. I think it works in its favor that the story takes a bit of a backseat to the gameplay and everything else that it has going for it. It does enough to where it fits and makes the game overall look really good without overstepping. So going into playing Dishonored 2, I had no idea if I'd like it or not. I feel like I've never really heard people talk about the second game, and I had a blast. This was definitely a great sequel. It takes the concepts from Dishonored 1 and improves and expands on them without making it feel like they're losing their original charm, give or take with Emily's leap ability, but that's neither here nor there. This game, I don't know its base price, but again, I'm a cheapskate, buy it on a sale. If, again, like what I said with Portal, if you want that itch, this game is definitely good. I would recommend playing it through, getting the experience. Play Dishonored 1 first, though. Respect the order. I gotta say, probably it's all S tier. So in the last section, I forgot to mention what game I'm talking about now. So, oops. Anyway, we're talking about Ghost Runner. Now, I bet you're wondering, what is Ghost Runner? It is a linear level-based game where you have to kill enemies to progress. That is pretty much it. It's not a complex game, and that works in its favor. The gameplay of Ghost Runner is comprised of 3 main things: your sword, your abilities, and a dash. For your sword, you're able to deflect projectiles, but it's a very finicky and tight window to be able to deflect them, and a sword slash. That one is not that complex. I feel that most of you guys can figure out what the sword slash does. Next up we are the abilities. You have a blink ability, a wind blast ability, a sword slash ability, and femboy hypnosis. We'll get to that one later. So what does your blink do? It allows you to target enemies and just go right through them, blink through them. And then your wind blast, what that does is a AoE close ranged attack where you just demolish everyone in front of you. Your sword slash is just giving you range to attack from a distance, and the femboy hypnosis allows you to take an enemy and attack people with said enemy. Out of all of them, definitely the mind control one is the strongest, but each ability has its own moment to shine. Though with abilities, I feel that sometimes they don't feel like they flow naturally with the sword and the dash, which I'll get to in a moment. Because with the sword and the dash, it feels like a complete kit with the abilities being an add-on. So to me, it feels like you should be beating the game with just the sword and the dash, but the abilities still do good. Like it doesn't feel like they don't belong. It just, my brain's a little weird. The dash is just a dash. If you hold down the button, it gives you a slow-mo moment to collect your thoughts. But aside from that, there's not really much else to it. It's just a really good mobility card to have. Next up, we have the Tetris board, which allows you to augment your kit in a way to where it's specific to what you want to do. With it being a board where, because it's a Tetris board, you can't fit every single thing into it, and you have to pick and choose so that your kit can play the way you want it to play, you know? Next up, we got the enemies. The enemies of Ghost Runner feel very fair, to be honest. And the one thing I like a lot about how Ghost Runner handles the enemies is not one enemy will be taken out of the game forever. Once it's introduced, it will be used. But also that's just because the way each enemy works is they are all equally strong for the most part. And each one has a specific weakness you have to abuse. And there's a really cool thing of having to work around each of them separately and together. And while also giving me some really rage-induced moments, I won't lie. I think there's only one or two enemies I really don't like, and it's one enemy where it shoots a wave at you, and it's so hard to get past it, and there is this other enemy where it will shoot at you from a distance, but when you get close, it teleports away, and you're a melee character that you can't just, sorry, I get really annoyed with them. But overall, the enemies feel very fair, and I've never had an issue where I felt I lost because the game wanted me to lose. I felt I lost because I lost to the game. So we also have bosses. And I feel for the 3 bosses that we had, I enjoyed all of them because all of them felt distinct and difficult at the same time. I'm not going to go into specifics, but I think my favorite one has to be where you have to fight another Ghost Runner because it really feels like you are fighting one because you're clashing swords. She's sending abilities at you. It's really fun. But the other bosses were fair. And I like how they brought in bosses as a concept in Ghost Runner where a lot of the fights are based on who gets the first hit, who's able to outmaneuver the other person. It's really cool, and I think that's great. I love it. The final boss, cool. We also have puzzles. They're cool, but also I'm indifferent to them. I just wanted to mention that there are puzzles in this game. That's all I have to say. Ghost Runner, just like Mech, has a lot of parkour in it. Compared to Mech, it is incredibly unrealistic, but also you're a cyborg essentially. So I'm not too worried about realism. But yeah, I mean, the parkour is fun. There's a lot of segments that are just fully parkour and movement based, which I had a lot of fun with. I don't have opinions aside from that. It's fun. It very much feels like you are this mutant cyborg who is able to do things humans can't. Here's the part where I glaze the graphics. I love the cyberpunk aesthetic for Ghost Runner. It works really well. I think my only gripe with the environment was you were in a lot of factories and empty-ish warehouses at the beginning of the game, and the game, in my opinion, gets so much better after the first boss for environments. Because you have this Neo-Tokyo-esque city with lights. It's a really cool look, and I love the aesthetic. I really enjoyed the environment for Ghost Runner, and playing it again, I could really appreciate just how good the game looked. Here's the part of the section where I horribly summarized the story. Let us begin. You wake up, there's a voice in your head. He tells you to go kill this person. You kill the person, and then you realize the guy's bad, and you kill him too. There's a lot more going on than just that, and I feel that there are themes about what makes a human human in there, but I'm not here to tell you guys that. Watch a 3-hour video on Ghost Runner and come back to this video. But yeah, I mean, it's not a really story heavy game. It's a lot like Dishonored 2 where the story props up the gameplay, which is the important part. Yeah, I mean, you get the voice in your head for the entire game, and then you find out he's kind of like just gonna take control, but you wake up, humans win, GG no re. This segment is probably going to be my shortest one, and that's just because Ghost Runner isn't the biggest game out there. I don't have a lot to speak on it. The gameplay is amazing. I love the tight, quick decision making you have to make. I love the parkour. I love the environment. The story's good, but it's not super nuanced and you don't really have to think about it. The game's good. I definitely would rate it a solid B+ to A tier. I definitely would recommend playing it if you're into these type of games, but like I've said for every other game on this video, but you know, it's alright. And now for my last video, Omori. We are finally on the last game, and this is going to be probably one of the longer segments. So we're just going to jump right in. I got 29 minutes to do this. Omori has turn-based combat as its main gameplay mechanic with a cool twist of emotions. Now, as a man, I don't know what those are, but I can sure explain what they are in a game. So, first off, we have anger, sadness, and happiness. It works like a rock, paper, scissors system where one beats the other beats that one, and you know, if you haven't played rock, paper, scissors, you don't have a social life. I'm sorry. It's a really cool flip where suddenly you can change your emotions of your teammates and your enemies. So you could do a cool little, I'm gonna give this enemy sadness so my teammate with the counter emotion can deal more damage. And there's a lot of cool abilities where you can do better or stronger when you're happy or sad or angry. It's a really cool system. I don't have the time to explain the nuances. It's just cool. Anyway, and just a quick side note, after this point, most of this will be spoiler territory. You have been warned. If you want to play Omori, I'm gonna just say this now. Play it. Trust me, this game is really good. Warning done. Spoiler time. So the gameplay of Omori is broken up into a dream and a real life segment, with the dream segment being where you have all your cool abilities and where you're spending most of your time in the game. And your real life segment is where you're going to be talking with the real versions of your friends where life is a lot different. And I'll get into the story later, but the difference between the dream and in real life segment is really cool because it's like it gives you a break from the turn-based combat into different types of puzzles and stuff. And there's combat in the real life segment and there is puzzles in the dreamlike. I just feel like it's two very different experiences to help break it up for each other. Quick side note, we have side quests. They're cool, they exist. One thing I really like about Omori's side quests is that they are very specific. There's not going to be a, can you fetch me this or this, like a procedurally generated side quest. It will always be unique side quests that can give you unique abilities. Like early game, there's a character who can give Aubrey this ability named Headbutt, which I used till the end of the game because you can deal some crazy damage with it. For the other parts of the gameplay, I'm either forgetting them or they're not really that important. Like in the real life segment, you can play rock, paper, scissors. It's a game, but there's things you can do, but I kind of want to just get to the meat of it, which is the environment and storytelling. So we're going to skip a lot of the gameplay because it's enjoyable, but the gameplay is the gameplay. I adore the art style of Omori so much. I'm not gonna explain the nuances because I'm not smart enough, but what I can say is I love this fever dream-esque art style where suddenly you can go from pastel colors of pixels and stuff to just a real life hand coming down. It's so cool, and I adore how it's used throughout the game and how it feels like you're layering art styles on top of each other to make this amalgamation that makes no sense but also makes so much sense at the same time. The art style is just really good and it leads really well into the story. I wanted to skip through most of the gameplay and environment stuff just because the story of Omori is, in my opinion, the strong suit. So again, if you watched this far and have not played the game, play the game or watch a silent playthrough. Alright, it's story time. So the story begins with Omori waking up in this weird pastel color world. And then, essentially, your friend Basil, this Mary Sue of a character, I'd say, he and your friends, Hiro, Aubrey, Marie, and Kel, sorry Kel, I forgot his name for a second. They're just playing games and then Basil just goes missing. And we don't know why he goes missing. And so this is the story of trying to find Basil. Looking for Basil has you go all over the place. For instance, you end up on this moon place where you fight this dude named Captain Space Ex-Boyfriend. Bit of a mouthful. And you fight him because I think we wanted to talk with him about trying to find Basil. It's been a while since I played it. And we fight him and we kill him. We don't kill him. What am I saying? Sorry. And then you wake up. What? So you wake up in this house, and suddenly the world is a lot more realistic. Pretty much, you find out that you're moving in 3 days. Your buddy Kel is like, hey man, let's hang out. It's been a couple years. And so at this point, you're kind of like, what is going on? I thought we were besties. And pretty much you spend this day just kind of going around town doing chores and whatnot until you meet up with Aubrey. Or you find that Aubrey stole Basil's photo holder thing. Yeah. And pretty much you find Aubrey in a church and you fight her in the middle of a church service, which I just think is really, really messed up on so many levels, because you realize that Aubrey's going to church because Maria's dead. Yeah, your loving sister who's like, I'll give you a picnic. Here's some health. Yeah, she's just dead. Like, dead as rocks. And Aubrey is at a church trying to cope with it. And we pull up, right now, right here, right now. It's insane. And you find out that Marie is dead. And at this point, well, we had no idea, and we eventually get the photo holder, give it to Basil. Basil, I believe, gives it back to you. And that is the first segment of the real life done. By the way, I don't exactly remember the chronological things, so we're gonna kind of just explain it and hope that it sounds right. Anyway, so you wake up back in the dream world. At this point, this is when my first playthrough ended, and I just did not play the game again until this video. So we're now in the video. You pretty much end up going to this mole colony, essentially. You go through this spider forest, then find this mole colony. You hear about Sweetie from Captain Space Ex-Boyfriend III, and you end up going to Sweetie's castle. And this section, I won't lie, kind of sucks. This was definitely the longest portion of the game, and I think a lot of people have agreed that it's a bit of a slog. I definitely feel that it isn't a bad section of the game. I just feel that it could have been a little shorter. I feel that the courtyard section in specific could have been cut down a bit, but I digress. Anyway, you end up beating up Sweetie. You wake back up in the real world. Also, the reason why I'm skipping through a lot of the dream stuff is it doesn't really get to the crazy stuff until later. Trust. Also, completely forgot to mention, on day 1, you have dinner with Basil and his caretaker, and Kel lets the cat out of the bag with the fact that we're moving in 3 days, and Basil freaks out. Like, I thought you wouldn't leave me. It's a little creepy, and it's a little creepy, and then we just dip. Again, can I just say we're a bit messed up. So yeah, that happens, and now we're in day 2. Sorry, I needed to add that in. So Hero is supposed to get back some point today, so we're just kind of waiting for him to get there. Aubrey and her biker gang, because she has friends now, are at this place where you used to hang out with your friends, like Marie, Hero, all them. We hear some screaming, and it finds out that Basil is getting picked on by Aubrey and her friends. TLDR, Aubrey pushes Basil into the lake water. We jump in to save him. We can't swim, just like Basil. And so Hero, who just got back, pulls us both out. Cool. So at this point, we take Basil home because, he's wet, probably sick. We end up going to Hero's house, or Hero and Kel's house, because they're brothers, and having dinner. And then Hero is like, hey, can I spend the night at your place? Because Hero and Marie were a power couple. When you think of cute couples, you think of them. And so Hero wants to spend some time at the place where essentially the love of his life was. So we go to Sunny's house and spend the night there. Okay. This is where it gets a little funky, but the general stuff going. So you wake back up in the dream world. You find out that all your friends had to get jobs, and so you had to go essentially break your friends out of contracts and beat up this shark dude. Pretty fun. And then after that, this is where the dream world gets trippy, but you go through some weird areas and you end up at this laboratory. And the reason why you're at this laboratory is because you saw Sweetie going there, and well, Sweetie's a dick, so we kind of need to, deal with her. And you'll notice through this section that they don't really remember who Basil is. They're like, why are we here? Oh, we need to stop Sweetie. And this is the beginning of the what is going on, because this is the latter half of the game. This is where it gets trippy. You know how it goes. So eventually you get to the laboratory and you kind of just follow Sweetie around. And this doesn't really have that much. This whole area this section isn't really that important to the story other than we don't know who Basil is now. But it ends up with us fighting this dude who is trying to eat us, and we get out. And at this point, we're now like, who's Basil? And throughout the game, you're collecting these like keyboard pieces, and at this point of the game, you should have collected them all, which spells out, welcome to the blank space, or black, I forget. And then at this point, you wake up, and this is where the game gets funky. So you have this moment where you, Hero, and Kel go find Aubrey, and you kind of make up, because you realize that Aubrey was just, when Marie died, Aubrey just kind of got left alone, because Sonny went home and stayed in his room for years. Kel just distracted himself, and Hero went through a big depression, and then kind of just locked in. Yeah, he's locked in. And Aubrey just got left. And eventually we find out that Aubrey and Basil were trying to be friends, but Basil just kept being really weird or something. And eventually Aubrey moved on. Not fully. I mean, she still goes to church for Marie, but she is moving on. And this ends up with essentially having Aubrey, Kel, Hero, and Sonny back together. You know, the full party. And you, well, head to Basil's. There's stuff that goes on, I think, but I don't care. We are now at Basil's place, and he is in his bed and doesn't want to come out. Like, he's sick, or he just doesn't want to talk to people. And his caretaker is being like, hey guys, you can spend the night here. I don't care. So we end up spending the night here. I'm going to do my best. So you wake up and you're in this area where you keep finding Basil and he keeps dying. And I'm just going to explain what's going on now. Basil has the truth, but your brain keeps killing him off because if he reveals the truth, shit's going down. And there's a lot of dream sequences, but eventually what happens is you get to this part where you're picking photos up and it's depicting a scene of you fighting with Marie and pushing her down the stairs, which is just damn. And one of the strongest parts about Omori is the fact that it was a mistake. It was never, Sonny never woke up and thought, I want to push my sister down the stairs, you know? It was, I don't know, but it wasn't that. And the fact that when he does push her, he and Basil covers it up, at first really took me out of it. Like, what do you mean? How does this equate? How do you get from point A to point B with this? But then I remember, I'm an adult. I think about things differently compared to a kid. And that makes so much more sense to me now because he's a kid. He doesn't understand really what's going on. And so they make Basil and Omori make her look like she, you know, I'm scared of YouTube. and that's just, and that being the deep rooted trauma of why Sonny is like how he is hits so much. Not because I've pushed my sister down the staircase, but I have siblings, and I've definitely argued and beefed with my siblings plenty. That's just how it is when you have siblings. So this was never not normal. What was not normal was how it ended. And that really, at least to me, speaks to me just because of how much I can relate to this. And even from an older sibling standpoint, my little brother did the same to me. I'd forgive him. Like, in the end, I feel that Mari is speaking to Sonny more than just what Sonny is imagining. To me, I feel that is truly Mari forgiving Sonny, not Sonny's imagination. So, at least to me, I know that if my little brother ever pushed me down the stairs, I'd forgive him. I love the kid. I know he would never do that with the intent to hurt me. You're just a kid. And yeah, Omori is an amazing game where even now, it changed my life. It made me realize that I can't just hide from my mistakes of the past. I need to keep living and do better. And I can't do justice to how much Omori has impacted me and helped those around. But if even now you are listening to this and you think this sounds like a good game, play it. To any of those watching, if anyone got this far, play the game. It's an amazing game. And this is probably my only S-ranked game on the list. I don't remember my rankings. Thank you for watching, and please consider subscribing if you got this far. I'm a wee little channel with no prospects, and I'd like to have a little internet fame, just a little bit. I'd get canceled so fast. Anyway, thank you for watching.